Hello and welcome to my thoughts on My Little Pony 11 and 12. So, starting off with issue 11, if you haven't read it yet, you can click here and I'll read it for you. Alright, everyone ready? Let's go. I really enjoyed this issue. It was just like a perfect storm of things that appealed to me. Doing a creepypasta? That's hilarious. Pip crying about losing followers? That's hilarious. The fact that I could legitimately just put in Dawn of the Final Day from Majora's Mask, that's hilarious! I know that last one's like an edit I made, but like the whole thing, reading, recording, editing, it's like just all baked into one experience for me, so it's hard to separate. And I had a good time editing, which is usually not the fun part. Anyway, our story starts off with my favorite suspense-building plot device. The flash forward. Wow, it's so cool. This might be the first time and only time I will ever say this. This particular use of a flash forward intro, while still a waste of time, does not make me want to vomit. While the typical flash forward intro takes a scene completely out of context and frames it to be very dramatic, despite that scene not actually being that dramatic, this one just simply tells us what the story is about. Pip's just tweeting about some... Wait, what verb do I use now that Twitter's dead? Xing? Is Pip Xing now? Elon, why did you do this to me? Anyway, Pip is Xing about some spooky, scary challenge she's doing, and Zip just seems annoyed with her. And I mean, that is a completely accurate summary of this story. So, I guess it's fine. That being said though, it does show off Sunny, Izzy, and Zip's, handles, and they're quite entertaining. I mean, Zip's is Stormy Skies, ha ha ha, I get the pun. But Moonbro, that's a good one. That's just a good name. And I can't believe they just made it add Sunny Delights. If you're not familiar with the Sunny D X account, they post great X's, such as, praise the Sunny D. Jesus. Anyway, Pip's crying, fishing for Zip's attention, which only makes Zip mad. I assume they have this sort of exchange quite often. Then Pip starts fake crying, and Zip's all like, okay, tell me what's wrong. God, what an unfortunate time in history for me to make a Twitter analytics graph. RIP Twitter. That being said though, Easter egg, if any of you actually stopped to read this graph I put together, you would notice that I also made fake tweets, and one of them contains an actual URL for a PNG. So I mean, if you want to put that into your search bar, go ahead. And then Izzy walks in, telling everyone how they should like and subscribe, and then BAM! Pip hits us with the old nag challenge. What is the challenge aspect of this? Is there a fail condition? Do they lose the challenge if they die? I posture that the word challenge is just good search engine optimization. And that's probably the reason why. Such as putting world record in the title, which is why I did it. It's funny. Anyway, Pip shows the girls various posts about the old nag. And I'm gonna say it again, this is hilarious. I love that it just tells us her parents died in a tornado, she went to an orphanage, she was a bitch. Ponies are trying to visit her haunted gravesite. God, what a good page. And then we make it to the actual ritual post. Don't do this. Which I'm pretty sure is a reference to an actual Reddit post called, please don't actually try this. And obviously, this will make such great content! Which, yeah, it did. Then we meet up with Pip and Zip at the store, and Pip is shopping for supplies to make her summoning stuffy. I can't believe she wanted to use floss and googly eyes as the vessel. Floss! It's like, same thing as thread, right? Whatever. A direct quote from the Reddit post I previously mentioned. If you half-ass it all the way. Pip is taking that to heart. I absolutely adore Pip's mindset here. It's a tragic story about a poor pony. Which is why I'm putting my own unique spin on it. She is content-pilled, or terminally online, as some may say. Instead of the classic, summon Nagy to get a wish, she's just gonna throw a sweet party. But I mean, she's still gonna try and make Nagy's vessel with floss and googly eyes. I love this sentence. Nagy's reign of terror started when her friends threw her a fake birthday party, but no pony showed. So rude. What an amazing comment on the situation. Director's cut. There was a joke I wanted to put in, but I didn't really know how to fit it in cleanly, so I ended up scrapping it. The joke was, Zip, Pip, she killed herself! And Pip responds, ponies tell me to do that all the time. That's just how the internet is. Pretty good joke, right? I think it does a good job capturing how light Pip's making the situation seem. Such as the little animation edit I did of Pip rubbing the doll all over the chips. That's funny, right? I thought it was. Not much happens on night 1 besides Zip continuing to be annoyed. And the spooky ghost that knocked over a glass? Oh god. Then the next day, Sunny can't find her recipe book. So of course Pip has to go and stream, oh god, a ghost has moved Sunny's recipe book too! Ah! That's just good content. You know what else is good content? Milking Izzy for some DIY plushies, hell yeah. Then Izzy starts to catch on as to why Zip is so annoyed with Pip. What about summoning this ghosty ghost, makes you happy? It's good content, Izzy, you just wouldn't get it! And then night 2, and conveniently, as soon as Zip gets here, the power goes out. And then once it comes back, poor Izzy gets assaulted. Oh no. But even after the attack, Pip convinces Izzy to come back for one more night. God, Izzy's such a good friend. And then on night 3, Zip conveniently leaves the room as soon as the lights go out again. And then dun dun dun, Nagathine Irons appears. You summoned her, Pip? What's wrong? Why are you running and hiding? Is this what you wanted? I mean, hey, catching a ghost live on stream, pretty good content. But after talking with chat for a little bit, she builds up the courage to confront Nagy and wish her a happy birthday. And then almost immediately realizes it's Zip in disguise. And then Zip apologizes, and Pip apologizes, and ghost jump scare the end. It's interesting that in Zip's apology, she just apologizes for being a douche about the social media thing at the beginning. Not for actually lying and scaring Pip. She just skirts around that fact and successfully uses her moral high ground to shame Pip into feeling bad. Because technically, yes, Pip exploited the story, but then Zip exploited the story back to make Pip feel bad for exploiting the story. And she gets away with it. She doesn't have to apologize for that. Just a little ice cream bribe and all is good between sisters. That was a good story. Not just in concept, but in execution. Those things don't line up too often. And along with the writing, the actual illustrations did a great job at supporting the story. The quality of storytelling through the art isn't something I often pay attention to, but I don't know, something about it just really popped out this issue. Maybe it's because of all the redrawing and editing I did. I don't know, it just felt alive. Anyway, speaking of, here are the art tweaks I made. They're mostly tiny, minuscule things. First, every @ or hashtag I recolored blue, except for this one because I missed it. Oops. In this panel here, Pip did not have her wings, so I granted them to her. Man, this is the second time Pip's been wingless. I've never had to add pony parts before G5 comics. Come on, what's going on? Obviously, this Twitter analytics is not a real panel. I completely made it. It should be quite clear, but I guess just for extra clarity. Also pretty obvious. The Poggies emote is not in this message from Kelpie Kate. It just felt right in the moment to shout Poggies. 2 little edits in this panel. Sunny's cupcake is not lit, and the doll is frowning. Oh, why is it so sad? It's not supposed to be sad. Here's this panel, them blowing out the cupcakes. I technically don't show it in its original state, but here it is without the yellow lighting I added. Also, Izzy's main outline is going over her horn, so I erased that, and then added in the little rune swirlies while I was there. The last change for night 1, I just added a little spilled liquid to the shattered cup. You know, for funsies. Next up, both time the lights go out, I color in the dialogue bubbles to correspond to who is speaking, because although the speakers are obvious the second time, the first time around it's completely up in the air. Next up isn't an art change, but I altered the order of these 2 panels. Technically, the panel of the empty table is supposed to appear before Pip runs up the stairs, but just so I could have one consistent scream fest, I put Pip right after Izzy. Next, pretty obvious, based on context, but no, XX_dark_ninja does not tell Pip KYS. It was just simply funny. Next up, I took Pip's hoof from the second panel here and put it in the first panel so I could have her lighting the candles. Technically, she is hoofless in this first panel. And lastly, Cloudpuff's face didn't nearly look cursed enough in these 2 panels, so I jumbled it up, you know, to really embody Sonic. God, I loved getting those things. Good times, good times. His little gumball eyes. God, what a treat. I guess one more thing. Here is the actual ghost jump scare panel. I never show all the parts all together, so this is what it looks like, wow. Alright, now that that is finally all done, let's move on to issue 12. And this story begins kind of where issue 11 ended. It's like a weird alternate reality where previously Zip didn't know Hitch had a podcast, but now in this story, it was Zip who suggested the idea to Hitch. But ultimately it doesn't matter, it's just odd.
The subject of Hitch's podcast is the disappearance of Pansy Silverbell. An interesting crime considering the medium. Missing persons often investigate foul play, and Hitch does explore this possibility, though quite loose and indirectly. Is this bit getting old? Probably.
I just thought it was funny to give Hitch that tone for his podcast voice. So as we get into issue 12, an interesting pattern starts to emerge. This is the 3rd comic written by Casey Gilly. The first one was issue 5, a ghost story. The second one was issue 11, a creepypasta. And this 3rd one, issue 12, a cold case disappearance. I think we know what kind of stories Casey Gilly likes writing.
Anyway, back to the case. Pansy Silverbell was supposed to show up at a bake-off, but she never arrived. The last 2 ponies to see her that day were Jazz and Dahlia. It seems that this is new information, and the photos seem to have just been shared with Hitch. Interesting that these 2 never came forward when Pansy first went missing. Let's go over the clues, see if we can't solve this before the story tells us the answer. Even though I finished the story, I know the answer. Pansy was a master baker who loved gardening, baking, street magic, and soup. Her friends say she's pretty cool and sure loves soup. She signed up for the bake-off, but instead, her cart was found broken and abandoned in the street. She volunteered. She brought flowers and soup to a retirement home, and she was excited for this year's bake-off. Right away, bells are going off. Ding, 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 ding. This soup thing is important. I almost exclusively watch cop and lawyer shows on television, so I know a little something about how these things go. Interesting that Hitch was not able to identify the commenter Dahlia, especially when Dahlia was one of the suspects. Good police work. Actually, good work, original detective assigned to the case. That's not Hitch's fault. Well, actually, maybe it was, because
it crossed his desk before he was... maybe he just was the detective assigned the case. Maybe this is all Hitch's incompetence. Granted, witnesses just came forth about Dahlia, so that's not past Hitch's fault. Although past Hitch could have gotten a warrant for Ponygram servers to release the identity of that account. But then we wouldn't have a story. Let's just imagine this wasn't Hitch's incompetence that botched the case in the past. This was some other piece of shit detective, and now it's Hitch's turn to set things right. It was probably Sprout. Let's be honest. A really nice detail that's extremely minor, but I would have reamed them on for missing. Every single pony in the flashbacks or photos or stuff for the past are Earth ponies, not a Pegasus or unicorn in sight. My immersion is intact. Anyway, back to the evidence. The grand prize for the bake-off was 10,000 bits. Whew, that's a whole lot of motive right there. Pansy and Dahlia, looking at each other nervously in front of some property for rent. And the second one, Pansy, with her cart, next to a disappointed Jazz. It looks like Jazz was the last pony to see Pansy alive. From this photo, it would appear Pansy, Jazz, and Dahlia are close. And from this Instagram comment, Dahlia was competing against Pansy for the 10,000 bits. The pony with the strongest motive seems to be Dahlia. She just had to take out the competition so she could win the prize and rent the space. But what's Jazz's angle in this? Well, only one way to find out. Good move heading to Jazz first, as her involvement is unknown. Best to get all the evidence we can before confronting Dahlia. And oh boy does he catch her off guard. It's funny that she asked him if this was official business or just for the podcast. You're talking to the sheriff, baby. That's always official business. Pro tip, if you're ever talking to the police and they say, sounds like you've got something to hide, don't make up a story to defend yourself. Just assert your right to remain silent. Looking back at this scene, it's odd how Jazz reacts when Hitch confronts her about Dahlia. Why does she lie about knowing it's Dahlia when she knows Dahlia's not involved? This scene really has Jazz put suspicion on Dahlia. I was upset about some pony else. Well, Pansy was considering opening a bakery and that would have been great, but maybe she just changed her mind. All Jazz does is reinforce Dahlia as the prime suspect. A classic example of a red herring. And great for the actual pacing of the plots. But like, literally speaking, why is Jazz acting this way? It doesn't actually make sense since she actually knows what's going on. But whatever. This is a very good scene for the progression of the story. Even though Jazz mostly lied, hopefully she slipped up just enough to give Hitch an edge when questioning Dahlia. And as soon as he meets up with her, Hitch goes right at her. And his tactic pays off. Hitch takes advantage of the situation. It's a small town. Everyone knows Hitch. Just because he's coming around doesn't mean it's police business. Plus, it's a cold case anyway. How would she think he's here to talk about that? But right after greeting her, he goes straight into, "Were you mad when you threatened Pansy?" And her composure shatters. This is the ideal mental state for interrogating a suspect, as the subject is more likely to contradict themselves, have trouble formulating complex lies, or otherwise slip up in the heat of the moment. But luckily for her, she doesn't actually know anything, and her responses seem quite truthful. So there's only one logical explanation. Jazz took out Pansy because she's in love with Dahlia! But what's the soup angle? There's always a soup angle. But unfortunately, we do not get to solve this crime, as Pansy is not actually missing, and she comes forward to Hitch and is like, yo, I literally just live in town, dog. Oh, case closed, the end. And while this is quite a sweet ending for Dahlia, it is quite a bitter ending for the reader. JK, there was no crime, lol. Oh. I think they could have ended it better without Pansy just coming forward and ruining the fun. But I mean, I guess it's pretty realistic. What else are you gonna do when the police think you're missing but you're actually just vibing? Imagine a world where Hitch made the soup connection himself, like a competent police person. And also imagine Zip didn't say that the soup place has been there for a while. because that just makes Hitch sound even more incompetent. Man, Hitch gets an L for this one. Like, hear me out. What if instead of meeting with the judges and then getting emailed by Pansy, and then Pansy revealing herself, what if Hitch just went to get soup because he's clearly so obsessed with it, and then made the soup connection? Because Zips of the place has been around for ages, so there was a chance the pony might have known Pansy, because she loves soup. And then asked the soup pony, you wouldn't happen to know a pony by the name of Pansy Silverbell, and showed a picture, because the pony working the soup place couldn't be Pansy, because that would be too easy. Then the pony would be like, I don't know no Pansy Silverbell, but that there pony in that picture looks like the lady I buy my soup from. I'll just run the store. And then Hitch tracks her down and finds her, and then you get to the same ending without ruining the mystery. But that's just me. But I mean, other than the mystery falling flat, it was a fun issue still. Hitch going police mode is always a good time. So I didn't make any art changes, but I guess something I might as well point out. A lot of the text boxes for like Hitch's podcast narration were just like floating off in the ether. So I just kind of moved them to a corresponding image. Like a sane person. These were both good, both of them. I mean, one was clearly better than the other, but that's just how life is. I think that's all I have to say about these. But let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and until next time.